Hi everyone, Kevin here. Today I want to show you how you can both get and also use Microsoft OneDrive. What is OneDrive? Well, it's a cloud storage provider. If you've ever used iCloud before or Google Drive before, it's the exact same thing except it's Microsoft's version of it. Now, what does it mean to store your files in the cloud? I know clouds float overhead, but what does it mean to put a file there? The easiest way to think of it is at home you have your own computer, and when you put a file or a document in the cloud, you're putting it on Microsoft's computer. And so Microsoft refers to their computers as servers, and their servers sit in many different data centers all over the world. But anytime you put a file in the cloud, you're putting it on one of these servers in one of these data centers. Now you might be thinking, okay, well, why would I ever want to do that? What are the benefits of putting my files in the cloud? Well, there are three main benefits you get by putting your files in the cloud. Number one, you can back up your files. So let's say that you have a bunch of files on your laptop and maybe you lose your laptop or someone steals it, or maybe something happens to it where your hard drive dies. By backing up your files in the cloud, it doesn't matter. You can then retrieve all of your files. Another benefit is that you can access your files from anywhere. So I live here in Seattle. I have all my files on my computer here in Seattle. Let's say I went on a trip to Europe and I want to access my files. Well, it'd be hard to do because my computer's at home. So instead what I could do is I could access the cloud that has all my files, and then I could get them from anywhere. The third benefit is I can also share and collaborate with others on my files. Now, what do I mean by that? Well, in the past, when you've worked on a file on your own computer, if you wanted to share that with someone, typically what you would do is you would email it to someone, they would make some changes, and then they would send it back. By storing a file in the cloud, what you could do is you could share a link to that file, and you could continue working on that link or on that file via that link. And then whoever you share that with can also work on that file. So you no longer have to send a file back and forth. So it makes collaboration a lot easier. Well, if it sounds good and you're interested in using the cloud and you're interested in using OneDrive, first off, I want to show you how we can get OneDrive. So why don't we jump on the PC and I'll show you how you can get started. Here I am on my PC, and to get OneDrive, if you're using Windows 10, it's very easy because OneDrive comes pre-installed on Windows 10, so you don't have to do anything else to get OneDrive. You could simply start taking advantage of it. If you're on an older version of Windows, let's say Windows 7 or Windows 8, did you know you can upgrade to Windows 10 for free? If you're interested, I have a link in the description of this video, and you could go ahead and upgrade to Windows 10, in which case you'll then automatically get OneDrive. Well, let's say that you're on Windows 7 or 8, and for whatever reason you don't want to upgrade to Windows 10, you can still download OneDrive onto your computer and install it. You could go to the following URL. I also have this in the description of the video, and you could simply click on that. Not only can you download and install OneDrive onto Windows 7 or Windows 8, you can also install it on Mac as well. So it doesn't matter what platform you happen to be on, you can get OneDrive. Next, I want to show you how you can get Microsoft OneDrive on your phone. Whether you have an iPhone or an Android phone, you can download and install OneDrive. Today, I happen to be using an iPhone. To get the OneDrive app, let's click into the App Store on the iPhone. If you're on an Android device, click into the Play Store. So I'm going to click into the App Store. Once you get into the App Store or the Play Store, click on the search icon, and once you click on search, simply search for OneDrive. When you search for OneDrive, you should see the top match appears and it says Microsoft OneDrive. If you already have it installed, you could simply click on Open. If you don't yet have it installed, go ahead and click on Install, and then you'll have OneDrive on your phone as well. The nice thing about also installing OneDrive on your phone is you'll be able to access your files from your desktop, from anyone else's computer, and even from your phone while you're on the go. So you truly do get access to your files from anywhere. Let's jump back on the PC and I'll show you how we can get started with OneDrive on the PC. Here I am back on my PC and I have OneDrive installed. I'm using Windows 10, so it comes by default. So how do we actually start using OneDrive, and what do we do next? Well, once you're on Windows 10 or once you've installed OneDrive, back in the bottom right hand corner, you should now see a cloud icon appear. This is the OneDrive icon. When I hover over the icon, it also gives me an update as to what the current status is. It looks like everything is currently up to date, but let me go ahead and click on this icon and see what I can do with OneDrive. So first off, one of the things that I see is up here at the top of this dialog that appeared, I see that OneDrive is all up to date. Let's say that I just loaded a whole bunch of new pictures or documents onto my computer. It'll show me the current status and it would tell me that it's currently updating, but it's good to see that everything is currently up to date. Next, right below that, I see all the files that have recently synced on my computer. I have a whole bunch of JPEGs, and also here's an MOV file that I recently synced with OneDrive. Now, with all of these files that recently synced, if I click on the ellipses over on the right-hand side, this exposes a few different actions that I could take on this file. For instance, I could open it to see what it is, I could share it with others, I could view it online, and I could look at version history. We'll get into more of these actions shortly, but I just wanted to show that for files that have recently synced, you can take various actions on them. At the very bottom of the OneDrive app, there are 3 different actions that you can take. I can open the folder, I could view online, and I could go into help and settings. Now we're going to go through each one by one, and I'll show you exactly what they do. Let's start off by clicking on Open Folder. Here I am in File Explorer, and File Explorer shows me all the different folders and files that I have on my computer. Here up in the top left, I now see a folder for OneDrive. When I click in this, this shows me all the different folders and all the different files I have in the cloud. And once again, when I put a folder or a file in the cloud, it backs it up. I can access it from anywhere, and I could also collaborate with others on these files. I want to take a moment to talk about what we see here in this view. Now, first off, you might notice something that's a little different from the typical File Explorer view, and we now have a column here called Status. I want to quickly walk through what these different icons mean. If you ever wonder what these icons mean and you forget what these icons stand for, you could simply hover over and that'll tell you what the icon means. Now, you have a few different icons here. Here's an example of a green circle with a check mark. What that means is this file is on my computer and it's also in the cloud. OneDrive does the magic work of making sure that the files stay in sync, so the version that I have on my computer is the same version as what's in the cloud. Now, some of these files here, the Apple Watch animations, there's a cloud icon, and this indicates that the file is currently in the cloud and I don't have a copy on my computer. And you might be wondering, well, can I still open that file? And here's a document that is on the cloud but it's not on my computer. If I click on this file, it'll download the file very quickly and then open it. In this case, it was just a blank document. You have a few other icons as well. Here I see a person icon, and what this indicates is that I'm currently sharing this folder with others. So it's a quick way to see, have I shared this with other people? And then there's another file down here called Book 1, and it has a sync icon. That means that OneDrive is currently syncing the file between my computer and on the cloud. I want to show you some of the actions that you could take when you have a file or a folder in OneDrive. So I'm going to right click on this file called Amazing Presentation. When I right click on it, this opens up the context menu, and in Windows you could typically do things like open the file, you could rename, you could delete, but I now have the addition of 5 new actions as well since I'm using OneDrive. We're going to run through these and I'll show you what you can do with these. Now, the first action is share. If I go ahead and click on this, this opens up the share dialog. Now, at the beginning, I said one of the benefits of using OneDrive is that you could very easily share and collaborate with others on files. Now, here what I could do is I could send a link to someone else. Here right now it says anyone with the link can edit. If I click on this, I have a few different controls. I could allow someone else to edit the file with me, or I could turn off editing, in which case they can view the file but they won't be able to edit. With a paid subscription to Microsoft 365, you also get some additional options. For instance, I could set an expiration date. So maybe I only want someone to be able to edit it for the next 2 days, and then I'll lock the file. And let's say you share something that's confidential, you could set a password and others will have to enter the password to be able to open the file. I'm going to jump back to the share control here, and within here I could type in a name or an email address to share it with someone, and then I could click on send, or alternatively I could also copy a link to this file and then I could share it through some other way, let's say in WhatsApp or maybe on Facebook, so I could share my document or my content that way. Back on the main screen, I'm going to go ahead, let's right click on the file again to pull up the context menu. One of the other options I have here too, if it's a Word, Excel, or PowerPoint file, I can view it online. I'll go ahead and click on that, and this will open the presentation in PowerPoint online. PowerPoint on the web is entirely free to use, so you could very quickly get in and edit your files through the web. Back within File Explorer, I'm going to right click on the file again. By storing your files on OneDrive, you also can take advantage of version history. I'll go ahead and click on this. This file doesn't have much history, but imagine that you're working with others on a file and someone makes some drastic edits that maybe you don't agree with and you want to go back to an earlier version. You could very easily do that. You could click on the ellipses and you could restore that version of the file. Let's click on the file again. Once again, this opens up the context menu, and I have two more options here. One of these is always keep on this device. Let's say that you're going on a trip or you're going to be on a plane and you won't have internet and you want the file to also be synced on your computer. You could go ahead and always keep a copy on your computer. You also have the alternate or the inverse of that, where you can also make sure the file stays in the cloud and you don't keep a copy on your computer, in which case you're going to free up some space. On my YouTube channel, I have all my videos and I store them in OneDrive, but I don't want them taking up space on my hard drive. So for all my video files, I always choose to free up space. Here we're in File Explorer and you see all your files. You might be wondering, well, hey, what if I'm out and about and I want to access these files elsewhere? Well, earlier I said you could get OneDrive on your mobile phone, and I'll show you in a moment how you could use OneDrive on your phone. But one thing you can also do is if you open up your browser, you can navigate to OneDrive.com and sign in, and that'll also give you access to all of these files. Now that we've looked at what the folder view looks like, let's go back to the bottom right-hand corner and we're going to click on the OneDrive icon again. So we've looked at what you can do within the File Explorer or the Open Folder view. The next thing I want to do is let's see what you can do online, and I'm going to go ahead and let's click on View Online. By clicking on View Online, this opens up the OneDrive website, and here I have a similar view to what I had on my desktop, but this shows me everything now that's stored in the cloud. So up here, we're going to start from the top of the page and we're going to work our way down. Here, Microsoft has a very powerful search where I can find any files that I've put in the cloud. So I'm just going to click on this and do an example. I've recently did a video on how to highlight your mouse cursor, which you see here, and I always save my video files in OneDrive to have a backup outside of YouTube. So when I type in cursor, here I see my cursor highlighter.mp4 file. So it's a very quick way to search across all the different files you have stored on OneDrive. Next, we drop by default in the My Files view. I want to take a moment to talk about what's within this view. Within My Files, you can create new files. So if I click on the new menu here, you can create a new folder. I can also create Word, Excel, PowerPoint, OneNote, Forms, and even a plain text document directly from this new menu. This is leveraging the different Microsoft Office online apps. Along with creating new, I can also upload content. So let's say I have additional files or folders that I want to put on OneDrive, and I'm not going to simply sync them on my computer. I could come directly to OneDrive and then I could upload them here. If I upload a file to OneDrive from here, if I go to the File Explorer view, I'll also see that same file show up within File Explorer. The nice thing is anything you do on your PC within the OneDrive folder, anything you do on OneDrive on the web, those files will be automatically synced between the two of them, so you truly do have anywhere access. Within the My Files view, I want to walk through some of the functionality here. So over on the right-hand side, you have some additional ways to sort the view. Similar to File Explorer, you could sort things by name, when you last modified it, big to small via size. So you have lots of different ways you can sort. Along with sorting, you could also visualize the files in different ways. So let's say you want to see a compact list, or maybe you prefer seeing the tiles view. You can alter the view based on what you feel most comfortable with. And then over on the far right hand corner, you have a circle with an eye in it. If I click on that, what this will do is it brings up an activity view, so I could see all the activity that's occurred within my OneDrive and on various files. So you have all these different controls of visualizing, checking your activity. Down below, once again, I see all of my folders just like they appeared within File Explorer, but now I could access all of them on the web. Just like on the desktop, I can also take actions on these files. I'm going to scroll down a little bit again, and here's my amazing presentation once again. I showed it within File Explorer, and this file is also synced in my OneDrive. If I right-click on this file, this exposes a context menu, and just like File Explorer on the desktop, I could take different actions on these files. For instance, I could open the file, I could share with others. If I click on share, this will bring up a similar sharing dialog to what I had on the desktop. I'm going to right click on it again to pull up the context menu. I also have access to my version history. So very similar actions to what I could do directly within Windows, I can also do directly from the web. Now there's one additional thing that shows up here, and it looks pretty interesting. It looks like a big safe or a vault. It's called the Personal Vault. This is a special folder within OneDrive where I can put files, and this is meant for files that you want to make sure stay very secure. To be able to enter the Personal Vault, you could set up two-factor authentication. What that means is not only do you have to log into OneDrive to access it, but then typically you also either have to type in a code on your phone or you have to get a code via email and then enter in that code to be able to access the Personal Vault. So it's an extra layer of security to keep things ultra secure. So let's say you have a picture of your driver's license or maybe your social security card. Rather than just putting it in one of the standard OneDrive folders, the Personal Vault is a more secure place to keep those types of materials. Now that we've looked at the My Files view, let's jump over to the left-hand side and see what else we can do. There's also a recent view. This shows me all the last documents I worked on, so it gives me a view of recent, helping me get back to what matters to me. Along with recent, I also have a Photos view. I'm going to go ahead and click in that. Within Photos, I see a bunch of photos appearing. You'll see photos of when I was younger in here. I could also click into albums. I could see photos by place. And then once again, just like within the other view, I have different filtering options that I could pull up here, and I could also pull up activity that's recently happened within my Photos view. Back over on the left-hand side, I'm going to click on the hamburger menu. I can also see files that I have shared with others. Here are a bunch of files that I've shared with other people over time. Lastly, I'm going to click on the recycle bin. Here I can see items that maybe I deleted and I want to retrieve them again. They'll stay in the recycle bin for a certain amount of time before they're deleted permanently, but this gives me the opportunity to retrieve files if I deleted it erroneously. Now that we've looked at the web interface, let's go back to the OneDrive icon down here in the bottom right-hand corner. I'm going to click on this again, and the last one I want to click into is the one titled Help and Settings. Within this, it opens up a menu with different options. I'm going to click into the one that says Settings. Within Settings, there are a few things that are interesting, and I'm going to click on the Settings tab at the top. One of them is you can have OneDrive automatically start when you start Windows. I have this turned on. This way, if I create any files, I will always ensure that it's always synced with the cloud. Down below, there's another option that says Save Space and Download Files as you use them. What this means is that if I create a file, rather than keeping it on my computer and taking up space, instead I can make it be only on OneDrive. When I interact with that file, it'll download a copy, but once I'm done with it, it'll make sure the file is in the cloud. This helps me save a little bit of space on my computer, and this way I know that Microsoft is backing it up and keeping it available for me when I need it in the future. Next, I want to click into the account pivot at the top. And one of the things I want to call out here is you are able to choose the folders that Microsoft OneDrive is going to sync. So if I click on Choose Folders, here I could define what folders are going to be synced. I currently have every folder within my OneDrive folder being synced. Next, there's another pivot called Backup. Let's go ahead and click on that. Here, what I could do is I could define that OneDrive Backup important folders. So let's say things that you have in your desktop, your Documents folder, or your Pictures folder. If you click on Manage Backup, it'll also sync those along with your OneDrive folder. And then next, you also have the option when, let's say you load pictures into your computer, you could set it up so OneDrive automatically imports those new pictures or videos directly to your OneDrive. We've talked about how you could use OneDrive on your PC and also via the web. Right now I want to show you how you could also use OneDrive once you install it on the phone. And so I have OneDrive opened right on the side of me, and I want to show some of the capabilities here. So here I am in the main OneDrive view. When you open the app for the first time, you'll fall here. And here too, I see my files view with all the files that we saw on the desktop and all the files that I saw on the web. Similar to on the web and on the desktop, I could also see all of my recent files. So once again, I clicked on recent, and this is my recent list. If I go over on the right on the bottom, I could click to view all of the files that I have shared with others. And once again, this is also similar to the view that I saw on the web. And then lastly, if I click on photos, this will show me all of my recent photos that I took on my phone. Now, one of the very nice things about the OneDrive app on your phone is that you can also capture content. So in the bottom middle, there's a photo icon, and if I click on that, that opens up the photo tool. Now, what I could do is I could take pictures of documents, I could take pictures of whiteboards. It does a very nice job capturing content. I could also click on the plus button in the top right-hand corner, and that also opens up a menu where I could scan documents, I could upload documents, I could take a photo or video. I could also create Word, Excel, or PowerPoint documents directly from the OneDrive app. So it has quite a bit of power. Now, one of the things I also want to show is not only can you capture content, you can also edit PDFs directly on the phone, and the OneDrive app has some awesome PDF editing capabilities. I'm going to scroll down here to a file that I created, and it is called my modeling contract. Yes, I'm trying to get a modeling deal, so let's open that up. Just kidding, I'm really not. Just for an example here. But if I open up this PDF file, the OneDrive app has some pretty awesome annotation tools. You'll see up in the top left-hand corner, I'm going to click on the pen icon, and here what I can do now is I can draw on the PDF. So let's say I just want to write some content, I can do that. Let's say I want to insert a text box. Here I could type in text. I can also associate notes with this OneDrive file. So one of the really cool things is the OneDrive app is a pretty feature-rich PDF editor on your phone as well. Along with inserting text or writing something or annotating, if I click on the ellipses in the top right-hand corner, I could also insert shapes. I could insert a signature, I could insert images, or I could insert the date. So once again, the OneDrive app gives some awesome PDF editing capabilities. And once I'm done with all of my changes, I click in the top left-hand corner on Done, and that'll save my PDF with all of the edits. I'm back on my PC, and the last thing I want to touch on is, let's say that OneDrive looks pretty compelling and you're interested in getting it. How can you actually get OneDrive, and how much space do you get? Well, over here on the right hand side, if you sign up for a free OneDrive account, you get 5 gigabytes of storage entirely for free. And that's about it. And 5 gigabytes won't get you that far. If you simply want to pay for a little bit more space, you can do that. And for $2 a month, you can get 100 gigabytes. Now, OneDrive also offers additional space if you would like it, where you could upgrade beyond 100 gigabytes, but that's typically a pretty good place to start. Now, over on the left-hand side, there are 2 different plans, and this is the Microsoft 365 plan. They have a personal plan, which is intended for one person, or you have a family plan that you could use with up to 6 people. And with the personal plan, you get 1 terabyte of space. With the family plan, you get 6 terabytes of space, which is probably more than enough space than you'd ever need. I back up all of my videos that I make on YouTube onto OneDrive, and I think I'm only right now at about 590 gigabytes. So even with tons and tons, probably 200 something videos, I'm still well under the 1 terabyte limit. Now, one of the nice things is not only do you get storage space in the cloud, you also get the various Office apps. So you get Outlook, Word, Excel, PowerPoint. So you get a lot above and beyond just the storage space. So the value truly is good, and you get a lot for that amount. All right, well, that was a quick look at how you can get Microsoft OneDrive on your PC, on the web, and also on your phone. If you now know how to back up your files to the cloud, and maybe you even know what the cloud means now, please give this video a thumbs up. If you want to see future videos like this, hit that subscribe button. That way you'll get a notification anytime new content like this comes out. And lastly, if there are any other topics that you want to see me cover in the future, leave a comment down below. That's how I build my list of videos to create. All right, well, thanks for tuning in today, and I hope to see you next time. Bye.